new album is really about sanity, or lack thereof, I suppose. How do you know who's sane or who isn't? It seems like we're surrounded by people all the time who are acting crazy, or sometimes we're acting crazy. How do you know where to draw the line? How do you know what's acceptable? Josh and I have a daughter who is kind of on the precipice of her teenage years, and we've been talking a lot about sanity and a lot about happiness and depression. I think a lot of times we have a lot of people in our society around us who are afflicted with certain types of mental illness, or who use those things as an excuse. So we've been talking to her a lot about that kind of thing, in particular depression, and understanding what that is and what that truly means, and how do you differentiate depression from a crappy day, right? And just the normal emotional struggles that we all have, and how do you find a sort of medium for your life where you can exist and be happy, and what does that mean? So some of the inspiration for this album really came from those conversations, and then I had a couple of conversations with some other people that just kind of stuck in my brain, and I really felt like there was a story there. One of them was someone who was a psychiatrist for many, many years, got into the field in the 70s. And he said that when he got into the field, the list of diagnoses for mental illness was, this thick. And then by the time he retired 40 years later, it was this thick. And he asked me a question that just really stuck in my brain, and I just turned it over for days and days. And that was, are we getting better at diagnosing mental illness, or better at creating it? And that just really stuck in my brain. And I thought, how do you know? How do you know? Just because someone tells you that you're ill, are you? Because they say so? And are we making this up? Are we, or are these afflictions real? Are we getting better at categorizing them? It's a very difficult thing, I think, to categorize what is inside anybody's mind. And so it just really stuck in my brain. The other conversation that I had was with someone who was with a lady whose husband had Alzheimer's, and she was talking to me about losing him in pieces. She said she'd grieved in stages over the years as his disease progressed. And she said it was very difficult to sort of lose somebody in that way, and that it was hollowing her out. And she used those words, and it just stuck in my head. And I wrote, after that, the first song I wrote was Unravel. And that was really about that sort of struggle, about losing someone in pieces. We're very introspective people as individuals, Josh and I, and as a band. And so we're always sort of like asking these questions. If this were me, how would I handle that? How would that feel? What does it mean to sort of be happy, and how are we stable? And that's really kind of where all of this came from. I think a good song has the power to transport people. It has the power to unite us in a way that nothing else would. I could write a story and I could publish it as a novel, and that can be powerful, but it's not powerful in the same way that music is. It doesn't unite us in the same way that music does, because music is so much more than that. A good song is so much more than just a story. It's not just the words, it's not just the lyrics. It's everything working together. It's the drums, it's the bass, it's everything working together that has the sort of power to weave together a story that will transport you, that will make you feel something in a way that a book just simply won't. And I think that's why it's so important that we tell a story. We want involve people. We want to unite people. We want to ask questions. And that's really the best medium for us to do that. I think everybody's a little crazy, right? We all have those times in our life, right? Whatever struggles you're having, where you just kind of feel like you're losing it a little bit, you know, where you're just not able to hold on. You're not able to cope. That's life. We all have those struggles to varying degrees, and I think that's what makes this subject matter so fascinating. You know, we may have taken these songs and we put them in a very sort of gothic setting, obviously, you know, sort of creating this our own little asylum, and giving these characters halls to sort of roam in and sort of explore their various disorders. So we've kind of blown it out of proportion a little bit, right? We made this much more dramatic and very dark story. But at the heart of all those songs are things that we all feel, right? We've all had just a black sort of desperation, a deep sorrow that you don't think you're going to live through, that it hurts so much just to keep breathing. You know, I think we all feel that way. We all feel sometimes just intense rage and this, you know, desire sometimes to lash out as a means of coping with what we're feeling. So our characters may take things to the extreme. These songs may take things to the extreme, but at the heart of them, they're issues that we all deal with every single day. That's always the thing with Neverlight, right? The story is everything. And so you really have to find artists who can help you to tell the story that you want to tell. You know, with the last album, you know, we had some great musicians who could really help us with the music that we were trying to make at that time. But this time, we needed musicians with a very sort of forward and cohesive voice that would carry the story throughout the whole album. So to me, it was really important to have drums that were very intricate and very interesting. You'll notice, like songs like The Quiet Room, the drums really drive the song. The drums for me are what create a lot of the emotion that I feel in that song when I sing it. And so it was really important to have those kind of musicians. That's why we chose Leo Marguerite. We felt like he had certainly the technical ability, but it was fun to sort of just give him creative reign and just let him listen to the tracks and see what he would do. The same with Anise. You know, his bass tracks actually have influenced my writing of the next album. And I think that's the same thing, just that sort of intricate, sort of dark feeling that they're able to create that gives us exactly the tone that we need, you know. And the same is with Ruben. I mean, Ruben for me was a no-brainer. He played with us on the last album. I think he's the best at what he does. And I knew we definitely wanted some piano. We knew we wanted violin. So obviously, you know, he can do those things really well. So it was an easy choice. Josh and I were built around music. Our whole relationship was around music. The night we met was basically a comparison of bands. Do you know this band? Did you listen to this band? Do you know who these guys are? And so our whole marriage and our whole relationship is largely based on music. So it sort of makes sense that we would start writing together. Josh was writing music already when I met him. In fact, he wrote a song that we played in our wedding when we got married 22 years ago, or 22 plus years ago. So we just started writing together, I think kind of gradually over the years. For this album, this was a little bit different from Nova Red. There were a couple of songs on Neverlight that I was like, hey, here's some lyrics, good luck. Write the music. I don't really know where I want to go with that, and I'm not really sure what I want it to sound like. There were a few that was not the case. When I wrote Liar and when I wrote Nova Red, I went to him and I said, there's an acoustic part here, there's this here, it needs to feel like this. I want time changes here, and I had it mapped out a little bit more. But it was really for my songs that I wrote on Nova Red. I gave him the lyrics and he built the music. This time, I kind of had basic ideas for the songs that I wanted. I actually, literally, I think we both had a diagnosis book, and we kind of went through it and created characters based on some of the diagnoses in this book that we found. And so we had this sort of list of ideas and these characters that we were working on. And I had a sort of a basic idea of what I wanted, but Josh records music all the time. I mean, there were tracks and tracks. I can't even tell you how many little recorded snippets of ideas. And he just labels them idea 1, idea 2, idea 87. And I just go in and I listen to some of these ideas and I see, is there a song? Is there a song for me in there? And so I would take these little snippets of ideas and I would say, yeah, that feels like this character. This is what I want. And so I would take that little snippet and I would write all my lyrics and I would give that to Josh and he would write the music. The exception to that is for Carve My Name, which I actually wrote the piano chord progressions, which is the first time I've ever done anything like that. So yeah, so that's how we wrote. This was a little different. And I think there were some other things too, like I think he had complete music for a couple of songs that he didn't know, he didn't have lyrics to, and I actually just went in and wrote the lyrics, which is a different sort of writing process than writing the lyrics and then constructing everything else, where I already had all the music, or at least the basic demo music that I constructed my melody and the lyrics around. So that was sort of an interesting process. It's like breathing. It's second nature that we would create these things together. Like I said, our relationship was really built around music, and so it's very easy for us to sort of fall into that discussion. And it's easy. It's easy to write music with him. And it's gotten easier over the years. I think in the beginning, when you first start, when you're creating anything, and this is not just because we're married, but with any band, it takes a long time, I think, to sort of develop trust and to feel like you can offer suggestions about the other person's parts or songs that they've written and know that they won't take them personally. And it's kind of really important when you're married. That's can be sort of rough because you have another relationship outside of music that you don't want to screw up. So, I think it took us a little bit of time. For me as a new vocalist, like sometimes I wouldn't do things right, and it took us a while to sort of develop a language where we understood one another and where he could communicate his ideas about my vocals and I could communicate my ideas about his guitars. Nobody gets defensive, and we can sort of understand each other and kind of know what we need to do. This album was easier than ever to do that on. I think metal is really the best genre there is for telling the kind of stories that we tell. I think I can't imagine my voice in a folk music setting. I think that would be quite overwhelming and ridiculous sounding. I think we need a lot of instruments. I think the stories we tell and the music we write at its core is complex, and it's interesting. It's multifaceted. It's got a lot of layers to it. And so metal is just the best at that. I think it's the best genre for sort of showcasing the types of stories that we tell and the way that we tell them.